Welcome, everyone, to Cabaret Conversations through the 92nd Street Y School of Music. As always, I am your host, Michael Kirk Lane. I am thrilled to welcome this month our guest. He is the A&R director for Broadway Records, the co-host of the podcast Gay Card Revoked. As a cabaret director and writer, he has worked with the likes of Kate Baldwin, Melissa Errico, and Jessica Vosk. As a performer, he has played sold-out runs at 54 Below, Birdland, and London's Crazy Cogs, and he has a new residency at Green Room 42. Please welcome to Cabaret Conversations, the amazing Robbie Rozelle.
Hi,
Robbie. How are you?
I'm lovely. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm so thrilled that you have said yes to being a part of Cabaret Conversations from 92nd Street Y School of Music.
Thrilled to be here.
So I always like to get a little background on our guests as we start. So let's talk about your journey coming to the city. You went to SUNY Binghamton, and you got down to the city. Let's talk about your journey in the arts as you were young.
I actually didn't go to SUNY Binghamton. I grew up in Binghamton, New York.
Well, I'm sorry that I had that wrong.
It's fine. My father worked at SUNY Binghamton, but I was the townie who hung out on campus. I actually didn't go to college. I started doing theater when I was young and kept doing it right out of high school. And I'm the oldest of seven. I'm from a very poor family. So college was not going to be it for me. I traveled truly everywhere doing theater, and I was lighting the candle at every end and in the center. And I said, not for me. And so I sort of moved out of that and into like the retail life. I worked for The Wall music store, which, if you remember, was a music store where when you bought CDs, you could put a sticker on them. And that meant that for the lifetime of the album, you could go return it and get a new one if you ever scratched it. They went out of business.
Yeah, I can see that wasn't a sustainable business model.
Nope. They all became FYEs. Most of them are gone. But I was moved to Pennsylvania with them. I worked at a Walden bookstore. I met my sweet husband, who is in the chat. There at that bookstore, it was very much a trip to the library. All these books are books that he's never read. He just wanted to see me. And then 10 years ago, we decided jointly that it was like do it now or it'll never happen. And I picked up and moved here without a job or prospects of a job and very little in the bank. I started working at Playbill magazine as a digital archivist for $10 an hour. I was scanning playbills. And they were sort of like, oh, you might be a little overqualified for this. And I said, maybe you'll find other things for me to do. They did. And within 6 months, I was the creative director of Playbill.
Amazing.
I was one of the creators of Playbill Pride there. And 3 years after I started there, I was poached by Broadway Records. And here we are.
So let's start with then Broadway Records. What has the process been like for you? You worked on so many cast recordings and albums of artists we love. Give us some of your best stories from your Broadway records.
Oh God, there's so many. I think my Broadway Records experience can be best summed up with this. The day after the Pulse nightclub shooting, we were in the studio recording the York Theater all children cast of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And I was very much like, what am I doing? Why am I doing? There's such important things that need to be done. Why am I recording The Kite? But Seth Rudetsky and his husband, James Wesley, came in and pitched an idea. And 2 days later, we were in the same studio with literally every major Broadway star in the world, recording What the World Needs Now Is Love, the single for Pulse, which was mind-boggling to be in that room, to see Seth Rudetsky point to a bunch of people and go, "You guys, altos," and it was Carole King and Donna Murphy, like people like that, and he just went, "You guys, altos, here's your thing," and played their melody, and Carole King gave him a note correction. Hilarious. But I've literally seen Lilius White literally sang all of her riffs. Like at the end of the night, we were like getting everybody's like overdubs, right? And Lilius White walks out, and as she's walking out, she said, "All right, everybody, catch me at the Triad on Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30." And I was just like, even here, the hustle is real, but the struggle is deep. Yeah. She just selling. I've I've gotten to see so many awesome albums be made and be part of that creation. It's really incredible. Like Jessica Vosk is somebody I work with a lot. We created her album from various shows that we did together. And those were just times in the studio that I will cherish forever.
What has been your biggest surprise in making that transition from graphic artist or bookseller at Walden Books to being Broadway
oh
records?
God. One, I can afford rent, so that's a nice change.
That's a plus.
Right? I feel like we don't put as much of a urgency on that as we should in this world. I have always sort of, for the past 20 years, have had like a parallel career that was running. So when I wasn't at Walden Books or whatever I was doing during the day, at night, and it's just very much like Cabaret. You're doing one thing during the day, whatever that is. And for some people, it's literally like putting together tacos at Taco Bell. And for some people, they do finance or like taxes or whatever, right? But then at night they do something else. And for me, I was in the recording industry. I started in 2001 with a company called Finsworth Alley, which is long gone, but my God, Rebecca Luker, Laurie Beachman, Emily Skinner, Alice Ripley, all of these incredible albums were coming out at that time. They quickly went under in 2003, and I moved over to a label called PS Classics, and I was there for, oh God, like 12, 13 years, working with Steve Sondheim and these incredible, like my mentors was Tommy Krasker, who ran the label with his husband, Philip Chafin. And I got to do incredible things that I shouldn't be allowed to do. It's and then to go to Broadway Records and have Lynn Ahrens on speed dial. That's stupid. I shouldn't have these people's numbers. I'm just a kid who didn't go to college from Binghamton, New York. That is dumb. But for me, it's just been like I'm very scrappy, and I will always keep wait, I heard it recently. Oh, Jennifer Lewis just recently said there's no elevator to success, you got to take the stairs. And so for 20 years I've just been taking stairs.
I love that quote. And don't count yourself short. Like, you don't say that you don't deserve to be in the room, because you've gotten yourself by climbing those stairs. You've gotten yourself in that room. So yeah, you do deserve to have those numbers on speed dial and be in that room, because you put the work in to get it.
Sometimes it got very weird for a while when I'm like, Steve Sondheim knows my name and lets me call him Steve. That's weird. You know what I mean? That, like, to 15-year-old me, that is shocking, and things that you don't dare to dream because they're too big.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it happened has just been a really wonderful, happy accident.
It's those moments, and I've had a few of them as well, where you're just like, oh,
right,
I could never
Right.
have dreamed this, but this is real life now.
You hung out with Cheetah Rivera on this very thing.
Yes, she's
That's,
been a guest.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
And again,
crazy.
15-year-old me would never have imagined that Cheetah would
Exactly.
know who I was.
Right. Exactly. Ugh.
I think the viewers would hate me if I didn't ask for a Sondheim story.
Oh gosh. So Steve was lovely. I talked about this in a show that I did at Birdland for my 45th birthday last November. Thank you so much. Um, mm, this is a lot of filters. For my 45th, I did a show at Birdland called The Next One because I kept getting texts from people every time you do a show, right? And you know
Yep.
this, every time you do a show, your phone blows up an hour before. Can't make it tonight. Have a blast. I'll be at the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And they never are. And so I, an asshole, decided to name that show The Next One. Um, why not?
Yeah.
So I wrote the show, and it for once wasn't going to be a show born out of any, trauma, real or perceived. It was just like a show. And then 3 days before the show, Stephen Sondheim passed away. And I had to make some choices on the fly, and I stand by all of them. So in the show, I do talk about, again, I worked at PS Classics for Baker's dozen years. Baker's dozen. Go see Into the Woods. They're not paying me, but that's free for them.
Yeah.
Uh, so my first job would be to two things. One, I had to proofread lyrics in all the books for Stephen Sondheim shows, which are thrilling and terrifying because, like, you're taking in all that genius, right? Like a sponge, But also, oh my God, what if something is misspelled? Huh. Or a line break is not where it should be lyrically. Terrifying for me. They kept asking me back. So we were in the clear, right? My second job, which was more nuts than I cannot physically explain it. My second job would be to be in the studio next to Mr. Sondheim, holding his score in my hand while he had a New York Times up like this. He would be buried in the New York Times, never doing anything, like nothing. And my job would be to follow along in the score. Can't read music still, but to follow along. And if somebody, maybe a Tony winner for Hedwig and the Angry Inch, say, missang a lyric, I would have to turn to Mr. Sondheim and say, I'm so sorry, but no front of Paris, right? He sang the word but, and you have the word and in the score. Do you feel very strongly about that and he always felt strongly about the and. And so then I had to go in and be like, so great, such energy, keep it up. Here's the thing. Mr. Sondheim feels very strongly about his lyrics being sung as they're written, So if you could just give me that same, such good energy, but give us the lyric as written with the word and, that would be great for me. And that's what I had to do for 15 or so albums.
Nerve-wracking.
Terrifying. I'm shocked I have hair. Truly. And again, like I said, eventually it became like, you can call me Steve, and I'm like, what's happening? Are we going to the basement? I don't know what's going on right now.
We won't explain that reference.
No, that is for 30 Rock watchers.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we were friendly, like showbiz friendly. We weren't like friends. I would never say Mr. Sondheim was my friend, but we were friendly in the sphere of making this together.
Great. So it took you a while while you were in the city, you were doing all of this before you found our little world of Cabaret. But were you seeing Cabaret before you were actively part of the world?
I was. So I can tell you the very first show I ever saw was Laurie Beachman,
Mm.
an old theater or an old cabaret space that does not exist anymore called Maxim's. And it was on the Upper East. And it was a French place, I'm pretty sure. This was right around the time when her album of Hope and Inspiration, I'm trying to remember what the name of the album is. She had been diagnosed with cancer, and this was like the "we're gonna get through it, you'll never walk alone" sort of album. And so it was 96. I know that because Forum was playing and the cast of Forum came to see her.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's like me, 19, 20-year-old me, and Ernie Sabella and Mary Testa. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening? And she was very upset that night because she had never gotten to sing the national anthem at the Mets. And so she made us all sing it, which was very funny. Um, so I was seeing Cabaret on and off. I saw the Calloway sisters at the Algonquin at the Oak Room, but
Mm-hmm.
now long gone. Or maybe it was Feinstein's at the Regency. I cannot remember which one. Anyway, I saw them do Relative Harmony, which was the sequel to Sibling Revelry. I saw Betty Buckley a lot. Uh, several plays. I saw her once do a set that was half Disney songs, and
Oh.
that was a choice. Like, Betty Buckley is very intense, and to hear like part of your world come out of her, you like, wow, you really went deep into those lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I moved here as a treat, I took myself to 54 Below for the first time and saw Marin Mazing.
Mm.
Uh, Marin, I've worked on every single one of her albums, and she was debuting a show called Make Your Own Kind of Music,
Mhm.
and weirdly, 3 years later, I would be called to design that album, uh, and it was the first show I saw as a resident
Mhm.
here, and because I was with her label, she had been with PS Classics. I was just like, "Hey, I'm with her label, so wherever you want to put me." And they sat me with her parents.
Oh,
I know, and the show is terrific. Like, it's a great. I cannot recommend the album enough. Go get it.
yeah, I have it as
It's
well. It's
all
amazing.
right. It's all 70 songs. And her spin on them. It's beautifully sung and very sexy. And her evergreen is no
Mhm.
notes. Yeah. So I was seeing, yes, the shorter answer is yes, I was seeing stuff.
What then brought you in that first time? Because you started as a writing consultant and director on shows.
Uh-huh.
Who
Yeah.
was the first
I,
artist who brought you in?
Elena Shadow. Elena Shadow was standing by for Kelly O'Hara in Bridges of Madison County, and had created the role out of town, knowing she would not be playing the role on Broadway
Mhm.
because it was written for Kelly, but Kelly was like 20 months pregnant. She was so pregnant, there was no way she was doing this. But she was standing by and kind of bored because Kelly didn't miss and looking for something to do. And she and I were friends. And so I said, well, why don't we just do a show for you? You have all this material. So we did a show called Always Better, and it was at 54 Below. It sold out. That show had two guests, Caitlin Kinnunen and Jessica Vosk, and that's how Jessica entered my orbit, and that's when things really
Mhm.
did that.
What is your process when you're meeting with an artist to direct them?
Mm. So I am very much not interested in the sort of cabaret trope of I was gonna become an actress, so I moved to New York. My boyfriend broke up with me, and here's Times Like This from Lucky Stiff, right? The song about my dog.
Yep.
I don't love tropes, and so my sort of thing is to explode those tropes in certain ways. I like to call myself the oh hello of cabaret, just like gently, not because I'm trying to move where cabaret is going
Mhm.
in a direction, right? So the very first thing when somebody calls me and says, I would like to work with you, I ask, what is the idea? What are you thinking in broad strokes? And sometimes it's like Melissa Erico says, I want to do an all Sondheim evening. Makes sense.
Mhm.
She's done so many Sondheim shows, right? Um, and sometimes it's like Jessica Vosk is the best. Our first show together was I was going to be on Broadway musical theater, but first, and it was all the stuff she did along the way in finance and as a Chili's waitress, and like all these
Mhm.
bizarre things that had happened to her, right? Um, the second show was called You Asked for It, and we wrote that as if it were an Amazing Race episode to become a gay icon in 70 minutes or less, plus encore. And I was on a God mic just giving challenges. Everything was loosely scripted. Like she didn't know exactly what I would say, but I always knew that she would meet me exactly where I was because
Mhm.
that's the sort of symbiotic relationship we have together. It's just how we talk. So we had a set list, and the set list was good. And it was a way it didn't have to tie to things the way a lot of cabaret through lines have to.
Mhm.
This could be like, give me a Bette Midler moment, give me a Sondheim, give me a Barbara, give me these things. Give me, I wrote a mashup for her of I Can't Make You Love Me and Still Hurting that are,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
so beautiful. And I was just walking down Ninth Avenue and sang it into my voice memo and sent it to her and Mary Mitchell Campbell, who was the MD. And they turned it into a piece of magic. So it's truly like, what is the idea?
Mhm.
And we will sort of fish around until the right idea presents itself. Um, and then we dive in and start making what I call the vomit list, which
Mhm.
is a Google Doc now in 2022 and used to be long emails.
Yeah.
Um, a Google Doc of like 50 songs that are just like things that might sound good for me. And then you start like eventually it's like a beautiful mind when you see all the numbers flying everywhere. Like you'll see them pull out 14 and you'll go, oh, this is a story in some
Mhm.
way. So that's how it starts.
As you're approaching this art form,
Hmm.
whether with a client that you're directing or for yourself, and we'll get more into your solo shows in a minute, but
Sure.
to you, what makes this art form different from just doing a concert or doing a review show?
Oh, it's so deeply personal. It's so because it's you,
Mhm.
whatever you have behind you, right? Sometimes it's a like Melissa uses just piano. I use a six-piece band that I call the two drink minimum. And for my residency, I can't afford all of them. So I have the roundabout reduction, which is just smaller, a trio. Um, but it's just you, right?
Mhm.
Telling stories and songs. That's how I approach it. I very much approach cabaret as if you are hosting a party and you are in a corner with your friends and you are like, you will not believe what happened, and tell a story, and a piano starts to play and suddenly you've got a song happening.
Mhm.
Those are the best cabaret. That is the best cabaret, right? Unless you are 90 and you're doing a highlights respective of your entire career, which is very long and storied. Um, and you know those beat by beat by beat.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just stories. Uh, I did a show at 54 when I reopened 54. I did a show called Back in the Basement,
Mhm.
and there was a whole bit, a long bit, but very funny about the world's worst community theater production of Jekyll and Hyde, which I was in. Um, and I did that solely because I wanted to sing In His Eyes.
Mhm.
But you just like the story is so funny and stands on its own. It's like Worth of the Moth. So it's just stories and songs, right? That's all it is. Yeah.
What do you think then makes this art form difficult for some performers that we know and love to make the transition into?
I think that there are people who are scared of uh, tearing down walls. When you are an actor, you take on somebody else, right? And generally, specifically like people we know and love, there's the remove of 6 feet where the orchestra pit is, and then a blackened audience that they cannot see. Where when I'm doing a show, and generally most people, there are impersonation shows or character show, people who like play like Ruby Manche, right, is a cabaret character. But generally, it's you again, and somebody's literally there, like right there. Like if you step 1 foot further, you will be sitting in their Brussels sprouts, right? And so that's scary. That's scary to me now, having done it for almost 6 years. It was scary to me on day one. That's just, they are right there. I can pull your lamp and turn it off if I want.
Somebody's going to spill a drink in that front row in the middle of your patter.
And you have to talk about it. So I have seen shows where things are falling down behind the person, but they are not relaxed enough that they can acknowledge what is happening and are just doing exactly what it was written, and delivering it exactly as they have done it in rehearsal, because they are not comfortable in being spontaneous into the moment, which is so key. So when I did my last 54 show, I was talking and I fully bit the microphone. Like it just hit me. And I said, I just bit the microphone. And I feel like we need to acknowledge that, because it is something that happened, right? It's so elemental.
Frequent viewers of this series will know that I love this quote, but I first heard it from a master cabaret teaching artist, Lena Katrakis was the first person I heard use this. And I use it in my own teaching now. In that in cabaret, the audience becomes your silent scene partner.
But are they silent?
Not always. Not always. But they become your scene partner. Like you've done, if you're a good actor, you're going to respond to what happens in the moment. And you're listening to your scene partner. And then in cabaret, it's that person who's right in front of you. Or it's the person in the back of the room who really needs to order another drink and can't get the waitress's attention.
Or maybe they don't need to.
Well, I mean, there's that. But it's that being comfortable in your own show, in your own performance, to be able to respond to what's happening in the room.
Yeah. It is crucial that you can respond in real time to something happening, and it is also crucial that you are putting the rest of the audience at ease for whatever, because if you are in control, I have a great example of this. When I played Birdland, not the show you saw, but the previous version of it, I fully set up a song, and Yasuhiko Fukuoka, who's my brilliant music director, looked at me, and I was like, start playing. And so he started to play, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, we're just going to stop. I fully just set up the wrong song, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a pin in everything I just said. We're going to come back to it. And jumped into the song I was supposed to sing, which was When Bert's Not Here. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it happens.
Live.
I mean, I've had it happen. Or those moments where fourth time you're doing a show and those lyrics are just gone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The moments when I have just turned at that moment of dread to William T. and Hall, my music director, be like, please tell me where we are with my eyes. Like, tell me where we are.
Yes, specifically the first time around. Like any show that I'm doing for the first time, and there are songs that haven't imprinted on me when I was 12, like a werewolf in Twilight. Um, I can sing all of Meadowlark to you, front to back, but like Sing Happy, for example, was so new to me the first time I did the song,
Hmm.
that I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. Yeah, it's not. It's so much work.
As people are coming to you, what really draws you to a collaborator? What makes you go, I want to work with that person?
Mm. Uh, at first, it was me seeking out people that I just respected and like Melissa Erico
Hmm.
and Jessica, me seeking them out and saying, "Hey, let's work together." And at that time, and probably still, my directing philosophy was I would like to create a show as a fan of you. I would like to create a show that your fans will love. And
Hmm.
I can do that because I'm a fan of what you do. And that still remains true. Now, people approach me,
Hmm.
and which is very, thank you, offer only. Um, but they come to me uh, and pitch me. And there are times when I have to say, I don't think I'm the right person for this. Or I have definitely pushed back and said, well, maybe not that, but have you thought about this?
Hmm.
And that can lead to very fruitful things. Um, it's truly so different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, sometimes it's just people I love, and I want to be in the room with them having a good time. Um, we don't make money doing cabaret.
Hmm.
Uh, Most times we're paid with like a gently used Chipotle gift card. Um, you're just like, how much is left on here? Can I get
Yeah.
guacamole? Like that is it. So you have to truly have a good time doing it and love the people that you're working with, because it's the only truly rewarding thing about it is being able to collaborate with people that you just love.
Hmm. So then what, as you were having this lovely moment directing these people you love to work with,
Mhm.
what made you go, right, it's time for my show?
So I wasn't the one who did that. Uh, I kept doing shows at 54. Jessica Voss,
Hmm.
Kate Baldwin, Melissa Erico, and Nika Graf Lanzarote. And every time I would do a show, somebody from there would say, sometimes it was Amanda, sometimes KJ, but somebody from the staff would say every time, that's one of your jokes. You should really do your own show here. And I said, nobody would come to that every time. And then uh, Donald Trump was elected, and I was like, well, that's the scariest thing that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. So I might as well just do things that scare me. And
Mm.
this was something that scared me. So the next time I did a show, and it was the Nika show, somebody on the staff said, you should do your own show here. And so I put a thing up on Facebook when we were all still using Facebook. Um, and I said, hypothetically, if I did a thing, would you come to the thing? And an hour later, I had a contract and I had a date,
Mhm.
and then I needed a show.
Then you had
And
to do
that's
it.
how,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's how Songs from Inside My Locker was born.
Mm. Well, I think this might be the latest we've ever gone into cabaret conversations before we play the first clip,
Well, I'm just so riveting. I don't know.
but I think it's time for our first clip. So here is a moment from Songs from Inside My Locker.
When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane When all the clouds darken up the skyways, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place beyond the sun, just a step beyond the rain. The sun'll come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. Just thinking about tomorrow clears away the cobwebs and the sorrow, till there's none. When I'm stuck with a day that's gray and lonely, I just stick out my chin and grin and say, here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say, it's all right. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since we've been here. So a couple of years ago, my worst high school bully found me on Facebook, because they all find you on Facebook. And he sent me a very long message that was filled with misspellings because he's a Trump supporter. And but he was apologizing for the way he treated me all those years ago, and then he got to the kernel of why he was writing. His 15-year-old daughter had just come out to him, and he didn't know what to do or how to handle that. And before I could bitchly write, Google exists, you heard of it? I remembered that, of course, he found me. I was the gay. I was his Will and Grace or Ellen. So I had to swallow that anger and say to him, you remember everything that you did to me all those years? You need to do the exact opposite for your daughter. You need to raise her with love and support and empathy and kindness. So when we debuted the show, I went up to my dressing room, and there was a lot of cookies because you guys all get it. But there was also this beautiful bouquet, and the card had my name misspelled on it. I knew it was from him. So I have it, and it says, Robbie, you're, Y-O-U-R, a special person. Took me many years to learn this. If I can change, anyone can. Now go out there and kick some ass. And that's what I'm doing. Little darling, I feel like ice that's slowly melting. Little darling, it feels like years since we've been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. When I'm stuck with a day that's gray and lonely, I just stick out my chin and grin and say, oh, the sun will come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. Come what may. Here comes the sun. Here comes
Tell me about the creation of Songs from Inside My Locker.
So Songs from Inside My Locker was created. This was only ever going to be a one night only thing, one night to entertain my friends, right? And I decided that it should just be like a romp through all the songs that got me through a brutal high school experience. I am a devoted musical theater lover, and I would often like walk down the halls of my high school just singing from the rink, and got pushed into a lot of lockers, and so this thing was born. It was going to be one night, and it was very fun and very funny. Bonnie Milligan was my guest. We did a number from Carrie. I had a crazy medley of songs from flop musicals that I called the Not Since Carrie medley. And we sold out. Like, we sold out quick, which I was not expecting. And then, as bookers often do, I got an email that said, would you maybe want to do another date? And I said, I don't know if I have that many friends, but sure. And we did it a second time. And then 54 called me or emailed me to be their Pride headliner that next year. What they didn't tell me was that I was replacing Lorna Luft. And I'd love to see the list of people that said no before they were like, oh, Robbie. But I did that show, and that show was really special to me personally. It was written the first year of the Trump presidency. Things were very dark and bleak. In fact, the first sing through that I had with the MD, I was like, oh, I need some comedy in here because it's very, very dark. Maybe we're not celebrating. Maybe we are marching, which is a valid thing. So we did that. And then I launched a Kickstarter to record Songs from Inside My Locker. And we dropped a chunk of the original Songs from Inside My Locker that was maybe too industry or things that were visual but wouldn't play as well on a record. We picked up 4 numbers from what was called Bustin' Out, which was the Pride show, and dropped them in. That was the Aged Out medley. That was the Step Too Far, First Penis I Saw from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And then I wrote what you just played, because the show, to me, never had a full resolution and needed one. And that is what I came up with.
And the whole show, as you just said, with a couple change outs, is an album, which is available.
Yeah.
Wherever you stream your music or buy your music, Songs from Inside My Locker is available. So please, if you are watching, go give it a listen. Go give it a stream.
It's fun.
Is your process of creating for yourself different from your process when you're working with a client?
No, I don't think so. I think that music and storytelling is universal. And so the only shortcut for me when it's for myself is I don't have to pass it through anybody. I can just do it. Where with a client, or generally a friend, like if we're talking brass tacks, I have this idea. Kate Baldwin did a full show of pop music that was called Extraordinary Machine that we did, which was so wonderful, and she was singing from Erasure, and she sang Aretha Franklin, she sang all this stuff, and she knew that Matt Doyle would be a guest, and we were trying to figure out what that could be. And my only request from her was, because she is a Broadway star, and you are in Broadway's living room at 54 Below, you needed 3 musical theater songs. Didn't matter how, but there needed to be 3 musical theater songs. And what we settled on were Breeze Off the River from the Full Monty, which has a very pop feel, a stunning acoustic, it was just her and guitar, Ribbons Down My Back. This was just before Hello Dolly. And I wrote a mashup for her and Matt Doyle of a Rufus Wainwright song called Oh What a World and Wicked Little Town from Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And it perfectly encapsulated everything we were doing with that show and just showing off so many sides of her. That's what the whole point was.
Well, I think we should listen to that since you've plugged it. And we have I have it here, so let's watch.
We're gonna do a little Rufus mashup.
Don't apologize. Happy birthday, by the way.
Been reading fashion magazines. Oh, what a world it seems we live in, straight men. Oh, what a world we live in. Why am I always on a plane or a fast train? Oh, what a world my parents gave me always. Traveling, but not in love. Still, I think I'm doing fine. Wouldn't it be a lovely headline? Life is beautiful on the New York Times.
two of the greatest humans alive. Come on. And how dare she look that good in a red lace romper? Ugh.
So my next question is an interesting one. I think it's how I think you and I are compatriots in the fact that we both love the art form of cabaret, but question its place right now and where it's going. And what's next for the art form. We've maybe had a little bit of this conversation, the back corner of a divey Irish bar in Hell's Kitchen before. Shout out to Deacon
After
Brody's.
one of my shows.
But what do you think the state of this art form is right now?
That's a great question. Often it feels like the fabulous invalid, right? Because it's so expensive to attend. And with multiple rounds of COVID and monkeypox and everything else, it was a scary it's a scary proposition that you might be sat with people you don't know, and what am I going to get? I like reopening 54 was they sent a PDF that was like 50 pages long of all their protocols, and like I could only use half my band at that time because only so many people allowed on stage and masks here. But like there were just everything was being wiped down like it was Lisa Rinna going to a hotel room. It was a lot. I don't know. I think that it needs to become more accessible in some ways. And I think the green room where I'm currently doing things is more accessible than say 54. And I do look at, or like Berlin, I do look at rooms almost like they're seating tiers in a theater. You know, there's like oh God, what do they call it? Premium seats, right? And that's your Cafe Carlisle. And then there's like the orchestra seats, and that's 54. And then there's the mezzanine, and like that's Birdland, and the back of the mezzanine is like green room. Now all of those seats are great. They all have great sight lines, right? It's just like, what is affordable? And I think it's about finding ways to explode the medium so that these songs, and we talked, you and I, about how a lot of our material we draw from the same well, right? But like I love to find like a song from the 1920s or something and find a way to twist it in a way that makes it sound relevant to today. Because let's be real, a lot of cabaret can be very old and very white, and finding ways to use the platform that you're given to lift up others, whether they're writers or music directors or guests, or like any band member, really, right? That's the only way that the dinosaur is gonna outlive. It's so weird. I watched one of the Jurassic Parks last night, and it's truly like, what do we do to remain relevant? When really, at the end of the day, it's some Cole Porter songs in a basement, right? That's what it is. It is some songs in a basement for an hour to maybe escape whatever's happening outside. But in my opinion, so much of my work is let's confront what's happening outside and find a way through it.
Well, that's how this art form began.
Yes.
When you go back to 1890s France and then going through Germany, the Weimar Republic, which is the origins of this art form, it was political and it was commenting on what was happening.
But then it, like everything over time, morphed into what was appropriated and morphed into what it often can be now, which is, I don't think, sustainable the way it is. But there are exciting people coming up through the clubs and doing excellent. Molly Pope, I could talk about her until I'm blue in the face. She's so exciting to me. And Jessica Vosk is like a huge example of somebody who nobody knew when we were starting. She was a swing in the Bridges of Madison County, and she just sold out Carnegie Hall. That's nuts. That's crazy. It's about taking these electric people and helping them explode. That's the only way that the cabaret form is going to move forward. The cabaret form is not going to move forward with, I was going to be an actress, so I moved to New York. My boyfriend broke up with me. Here's a song about my dog. That's never going to be it. The art form can be the songs of X move me. Here's why, but they need to be personal. I think Ari Axelrod is somebody who's very exciting coming up, right? And I don't think he knows any songs that were written after 1964. That doesn't matter. What matters is how he delivers them and breathes new life into them. That's what's exciting to me.
I'll add one more artist to that list of people who I think are exciting in the room, and that is Blaine Alden Krause. I think somebody who's pushing this art form forward in amazing ways.
And David Lamar
and
Darnell White. Oh my gosh. And the thing, what we need specifically as like a queer creator, we need people to show up, right? We need people to show up. We need people like follows and likes on things really mean something, because unfortunately, the very first question that I get asked is, what is your social media like?
Yeah.
And how does that help anything? Social media can't sing.
Nor does social media followers from around the world fill a cabaret room.
No. And that it's been very interesting. This residency that I'm doing at Green Room is very interesting because it's the first time I had a residency at 54 Below, but it was very much like me and others. I was just sort of like an MC. I was doing the Rosie O'Donnell show, like, if I'm very frank. But this is me and occasionally a guest. But what I'm doing, and I'm working on a new album, which is why we're doing the residency, because we're just trying out some stuff. It's called Party Mix, and that just means, one, I couldn't think of anything to call it. And two, I was like, familiar things and new stuff. That's like Chex and pretzels and those rye crackers. That's a party mix, right? But we are, for the first time in my career, we're live streaming. So we are like, I am accessible to people who follow me from Wisconsin, or, I played London, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if people didn't know me there. So building those social followings and giving those likes and follows are crucial.
Tell us more about, because we're running quickly towards the end of my time before I turn questions over to the audience. So no, I'm loving it. You and I could probably go for another hour. But true. Tell us more specifically about Party Mix and when the residency is happening, how it's when it's going up.
Yeah, would love to. So there are 3 more shows left. One is October 20. There are Monday nights. There's one October 24th, one November 14th, and one December 19th. Monday night, 7 o'clock, because I'm a headliner. Thank you.
Yes.
It was so weird to like fall down from like the 9:30 slot to a 7 o'clock slot. And I realized the difference was eating versus drinking. Truly. Like the 9:30, they were just drinkers. And the 7 o'clock, they're having dinner. So it's a lot more clang, clang, clang of the fork scraping a plate. Anyway.
Not the trolley, it's the fork this time.
Somebody should write that parody. Seth Sykes can do it. Anyway, so we have three more. Who knows after that? I don't know. Birdland has asked me to come back at some point, and I honestly love all the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
I joked in my last show that I was just collecting all the rooms like they were Infinity Stones.
I love it.
Yeah, so 3 shows left. There are a lot of fun. Patty Murin's my guest at the next one, and that's very exciting.
And tell me about the new album.
Great. Right now we're calling it I Like This One. And yeah, it's gonna be, I think, 10 songs. I have a very lovely benefactor who loves my work and has been truly everywhere to see me. And he has given me some money to begin work on it. So Yaz and I have been working on it. We released the first single of it, the Friday of Pride, and which is a my jazz ballad take of a Sesame Street song that I turned into a gay love song called When Bird's Not Here. And we're just, we're trying to figure out exactly what we want on the record.
Well, let's listen to that first single.
Yay.
I have it here, so we might as well listen.
Well, yes.
You can tell I was listening to it earlier. It was farther in.
When Bert's not here, the hours last forever. The toys aren't fun, cookies don't crunch. When Bert's not here, I don't feel so clever, and I never even feel like having lunch. When Bert's not here, the place is too quiet, the windows creak, funny thoughts fill my head. When Bert's not here, no way to deny it, I feel I really should have stayed in bed. There's some peculiar things about him. What he likes and does can be a mystery. But to spend a rainy day without him makes me realize how much he means to me. There's some peculiar things about him. What he likes and does can be a mystery. But to spend a rainy day without him makes me realize how much he means to me. When Bert's not here, the sky is not as sunny, my life seems blue, and from my point of view, when Bert's not here, my jokes aren't as funny, and I wonder what on earth I'm gonna do when Bert's not here to play with me.
I feel like I have to let you know, we do have a cast member from Sesame Street who's in the room tonight who texted me while that song was playing just hearts about how much she was loving that arrangement.
Oh, thank you.
I'm excited for the album. As we said, you and I pull from a lot of the same material, and we approach things sometimes the same way, sometimes very different ways. And I love your approach on that song and some other songs we've shared. Tell us about the upcoming directing projects.
Mauricio Martinez is playing terrible, horrible, difficult to look at. He's Mark Cortelli is taking him to P-Town with our show.
Love that.
Which is a really great show. He's Mexican born and an International Emmy Award winner. He was Emilio Estefan on Broadway, and I love him. He was a guest in my show. Jennifer Diamond, her show is at the Green Room. Nope, that's at 54 Below. I have to look at my own website because there's just so much going on. Jennifer is there November 4th. The show is called Let Me Be Me. And that was a fun show to write because she's very much like, people see me and they just want to throw me in this one tiny box. And I can do many, many things. And so it's very great. She's very funny. There's a lot of high belting. We love that. Robert Bannon, who's a newly sort of emerging cabaret singer who is literally everywhere. We did a show earlier this year called Rewind that we're bringing back to the Green Room on the 22nd of October. And then who knows, into the new year.
Into the new year.
A lot of stuff going on though. Melissa Erica's touring everywhere with the song.
She is touring everywhere. She's also been a guest on this show.
She's the queen. She's incredible.
It is sadly time for me to ask my last question before we watch one more clip and then I turn it over to the audience. Audience, while the clip is playing, you're welcome to, if you want me to ask your question, you can chat it directly to me, or afterwards I will invite you to turn your cameras on and you can ask yourself. But Robbie, every one of these, we're now in our third year of Cabaret Conversations. Every one of these has ended with the exact same question. So it's my James Lipton moment. Everybody gets the same question.
Right. What a dream.
In a couple sentences or a thought, what is cabaret?
Jesus. Cabaret is the most intimate of art forms. A party that you are throwing for your friends that other people just happen to be listening in on, that can be deeply, deeply personal or very broad. And truly one of the most artistically fulfilling art forms because you own all of it. That's what cabaret is.
It's great. It's great. And if you would like, I can send you everyone else's answers.
It's a coffee table book.
Yeah.
It's just photos of us doing this.
It's now a playlist on YouTube of everyone's answers to that question.
Oh, good.
Here's one more clip of Robbie, and then we will be back on the other side.
Yay.
I've slept in the mud. I've given my best while they've screamed for my blood. I've begged and I've bullied for any small chance to perform. And nights I've awakened my guts in a knot, remembering how much I gave up and for what. Some paints and some costumes, a pitiful tent in a storm. A handful of coins, a trunk always packed, no family, no home, just this madness to act. is a sculptor aspiring to be when he spends half his life carving stone. Kings fill their tombs for the ages, poets and fools fill up their pages. What are they hoping for? What do they feel? I say we yearn to leave something that lasts, to be known for what little we've done. Men tell the children the tales of their past, and each man gives his name to his son. Something in song or in story, something in blood, something of glory, something that won't fade away in a year. Well, I will not flicker and die like an ember. Too many men flicker and die. I will leave something behind to remember. Somehow I must. Don't ask me why. I have no son, at least none I can claim, and no patience for carving in stone. All that I have are my skills and my name, and this chance to make both of them known. This is my key to the portal, how I can leave something immortal, something that time cannot make disappear, something to say I was here.
You are here, and you deserve to be in those rooms. I want to thank Robbie Rozelle for being here. And if you have a question for Robbie, you can now turn your camera on, give me a little wave, and I will add you to the spotlight. And you can ask yourself. Oh, I have some questions coming in via chat as well. Meg, do you want to ask yours that you typed in?
Oh, sure.
Oh, here we go. Let me.
Hi, you're
Meg
beautiful.
Flather.
Hi, you're so beautiful, and I'm in a family of several careers that we were trained, and we found ourselves in a job, and then we just scrambled to do everything we could in that job, and were promoted. And I often, in my experience, there's something about not being trained that made me more fearless and more courageous and more spontaneous. But then I also came up against where I wasn't trained. So I wonder, how do you navigate those two worlds? You're sort of thrown into this world, which is pretty remarkable, and escalate in this world. How do you navigate keeping that spontaneity of not being trained and that wanting to give yourself the training?
Right. Yeah. So interestingly, I had never I had never studied voice of any kind prior to the pandemic. And a very good friend of mine was getting his master's in vocal pedagogy. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Sure. Mensa. Anyway, he was starting a voice studio coming on the other side of the pandemic, and like we had all sorts of plans. My album was going to come out and we were going to take it around the world. Like we had these grand visions, and then the world ended, right? And so we all just sat home and watched Tiger King and made sourdough, and I inhaled the housewives like they were crack. And stopped using this altogether because mostly I'm a comedian, and trying to be funny inside of a Zoom box when nobody's laughing is really hard. So I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, if you're looking for a student, I'm your man. Let's do this. We started on a Monday, and the very next day, Tuesday, I got an email from 54 saying, hey, we're reopening in a month. Do you want to come reopen it? And yes, says I. But because of that, we've never been just training to strengthen. It's so weird. So like every show I do is some kind of Olympic, because I'm just shot out of a cannon and we're just prepping for the next one. But there hasn't been downtime that's just like, what if we just work on this song because we like it? So because of that, I'm still just like, that's what keeps me fresh and spontaneous, because I don't have there's no other way for me to be. I hope that answered you.
I was hoping you'd also talk about the other hats that you wear, because it was daunting to learn about, like, being Stephen Sondheim's editor. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and it was, I've worked with a ton of, like, Sheldon Harnick and Jerry Bach. I did the last Fiddler album, not the Yiddish Fiddler, but like the last Broadway one. And I did She Loves Me. And She Loves Me is my favorite musical of all time. So that's also like, I worked for Patti LuPone used me as a footrest when I did one of her albums. This is a hand to God true story. I was in the Warpaint dressing room with her, and she looked at me and she said, Robbie, my doctor has said I have to have my hip replaced, so I have to lie down. So I don't know how we're gonna do this. Oh, I could put my feet on you, and she did. So, but I think in those situations, you don't have the time to be scared at the time. After, and you're like, how the fuck did I just do that? Afterwards, it's very daunting. I will say, on stage, beta blockers are beautiful. But you just, you don't have time.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
Nick.
Great advice. You don't have time. Do it.
Yeah.
Another question came in through the chat from Jackie Draper. What was your most embarrassing moment during a cabaret show, and how did you work through it? And then on the other side of that, what was your most exalting moment?
Great. Most embarrassing moment. I'm trying to think. Like, there's nothing I've ever walked off stage going, I can't. Well, you just put the horse down. I did, like I said, I did set up a full ass song, only to not sing that song, which was bizarre. And the audience was with me again. If you are in control, the audience is like, oh, he's got this, it's fine. But I haven't done anything that I never fell off a stage or anything like that. My most exalted moment, when I played London back in May, I played Crazy Coqs, which is a perfectly round room, and so it has perfect acoustics. And so when I sang the song you just saw me do, I was here. I was like, well, this is a smart way to end this show. And I was able to just push the microphone aside and just sing that song. And it's the most connective I've ever felt, because there wasn't technology in the way. It was just the human voice and a piano.
I love that. That connection. Oh, when the magic happens. When the magic happens.
You're like, oh, okay. And then we went to the American bar and got drunk. Worth it.
I'm sensing that, yeah, because after the show I saw we went to Deacon Brody's. It just, it happens.
Why wouldn't you?
You celebrate the joy of what you've just done.
Yes.
Well,
you deserve a whiskey.
I am celebrating the joy of what we've just done. A couple housekeeping things before we end this evening. Cabaret Conversations will be back actually next week with the executive director of the American Songbook Association and amazing cabaret performer Carolyn Montgomery. And then next month we'll be back with the legendary Mark Nadler. on the series. The 92nd Street Y School of Music cabaret programming. Also, we are bringing back our in-person cabaret performance, Connecting to Your Lyric class, and that will be taught by myself, and I'll be joined by Robbie's music director, Yaz, on that class. So you can look for more information on that on the 92nd Street Y's website as well. Robbie, thank you so much for sharing of your time and your story and your artistry tonight, and thank you for being part of Cabaret Conversations. I will give us a little spotlight on the dog that has popped in.
Thank you.
Because I feel
There's
like
a dog waving at me. It's very exciting.
That is Newhart. So there's Newhart waving at us to take us off. Thank you all for joining us for Cabaret Conversations this evening, and thank you again to my guest, Robbie Rozelle. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.